Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today, guys, we're going to be diving into the world of ANKR, specifically talking about the price action of this altcoin. We're going to be taking a look at the daily and the hourly to see exactly what we could expect to happen next. As we get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with that said, done out of the way, let's dive down into the charts and take a look at what's going on here with ANKR. Okay, so to start with, we're going to just really take a look at this this daily chart. Now, I'll just zoom out so you can see kind of progress that we've had so far, right? 5 impulse waves to the upside, 34,000% since March 2020, and I think it was the peak up in March of 2021. 378 days, very, very profitable. A bit slow to start with, and again, this is the frustration that many people feel, right? We take a look at what was going on with wave 2 here, because it was relatively flat, and then all of a sudden it spiked up massively towards the end, right? And obviously in wave 4 here, we're very, very flat, waiting for that huge spike towards the end, okay? And again, we do anticipate moving up to about 77. That's a nice conservative target. When we actually take everything into consideration, you know, the actual impulse waves here of wave 3 and the corrective wave 4, we can actually think about where things are likely to go potentially a little bit more accurately, and that would be if we take the trend of wave 3, if I actually get that, there we go, and the trend of wave 4 to the downside. This actually shows ANKR moving up to 94.9 cent. Okay, so again, I think that's like true maximum kind of price expectation, because this is based on the length and the basically the whole impulse wave 3 to the upside, and taking into consideration that the corrective wave 4. Okay, and I think this basically is then giving you the most accurate way of saying this is probably where we're going to end up. With that being said, though, I like to use the 2 anchor points, just the top of 3 and the top of 4, not the lower 3, the higher 3, and the lower 4, and because this gives us a nice conservative target that we should be hitting and something that we should be comfortable with. This means that we are potentially going to sell close to the top, but not necessarily the top itself, and we don't have to worry about timing it perfectly. Now, of course, if we are traders and we're very, very confident, then by all means we should be thinking about 94 cent. But for the most part, I think this area of 77 is a nice comfortable area for many people, and it means that we can lock in those profits ahead of potentially falling the price falling down into the bear market, where we lose like 70 to 90% of the value. And so I want to make sure that we lock in those profits on the journey to the upside. So 77 cent is where I'm going to keep our analysis, just at the top of wave 3 down to the wave 4, the 4.236 extension, 77 cents. If you're really confident and you like trading and all of that kind of good stuff, then by all means take the bottom of wave 2, the top of wave 3, the bottom of wave 4, and then you can see 94.8 cent as your target. Okay, both of these are very good ways of kind of measuring where you're looking to try to go next. The trend-based fib extensions are the ones that I think take a little bit more practice to use, but once you use them correctly, you're going to be seeing some pretty interesting targets that you also might want to lock your profits in against, and obviously a theoretical top based on performance. Okay, so for experienced traders, by all means go for that. That's fantastic. And otherwise, I think sticking to 77 cent based on the top of 3 and the lower 4 gives us a pretty good flavor, and obviously an clear and conservative target that we could anticipate happening. Now, that is from the current position a 678% move, something that we're pretty comfortable with, and again I think is likely to happen. So as we come in here and we zoom in on the daily chart, we can obviously see some pretty interesting kind of price spikes that happened yesterday, right? With price moved up and appreciated quite nicely. Let me just make that a little bit bigger so we can see exactly what's going on here. If we actually go ahead and grab hold of our price range, we can see that yesterday we actually moved up a total of 29%, okay? And actually, if we actually think about this into the 2-day period, it went up 33%. So we're just going to take it from yesterday at 29%. So we had a 29% move, and then obviously we started to see a pullback. So basically we came up, we found the resistance up here on the 382, and then we fell back down a total of 13%, and we're currently resting on a loss of 12%. Okay, so from the high that was yesterday to where we are right now, that's a 12% loss on that, but still appreciating. We actually have spiked up from the lows of a couple days ago by 13%. So the two things together and taking us towards the 29. So overall, everything's looking pretty good from that kind of perspective. But what actually is going on here? Why did we see such a huge spike to the upside? And actually, that becomes a little bit clearer when we start thinking about what's going on with everything, in terms of our target towards 18.9 cent and the cup and handle, which again, I'll just quickly draw out. Obviously, we have a big cup here, we have the handle that formed here, and this particular handle does target 19 cent, okay, 18.9. So again, that spike here is basically on the verge of actually completing our handle and then should continue that growth to the upside overall. And when we actually jump down into our hourly chart, this is actually where things get a little bit more interesting. Let me just move that out of the way. Because we do have this triangular wedge just here, and this actually plays out quite nicely. But what I'm going to do before we actually talk about this is I'm going to jump over to advice.io. So advice.io, for those who are unfamiliar, use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help us understand the underlying value of cryptocurrencies. There's a link in the description down below. It's completely free. Do sign up, utilize this platform to your advantage. You will not regret it, in my opinion. This AI has been right more times than I can count. So definitely sign up, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Now, as we come into this, we can see that ANKR is an A3 cryptocurrency. As we come down, we have an AMI-HAD ratio of C2. So basically, AMI-HAD ratio is your liquidity, and C2 is a pretty bad rating, basically indicating that there are problems with liquidity. This is not just related to ANKR, though many altcoins in the space are experiencing problems with liquidity. As we move across, we have a fear and greed index, not the Bitcoin fear and greed index that you see everywhere, but a fear and greed index that is related just to ANKR. Now, this AI has generated this fear and greed index, and it's indicating an A1 rating, basically indicating extreme greed. Once we enter this extremely greedy area, this is usually where profits are being taken. And again, you saw a little bit of that effect yesterday. Ultimately, when you also see greed, you see FOMO, people FOMOing into a project nicely. And obviously, when we come down to the Sharpe ratio, we have an A2 rating. And again, your Sharpe ratio is risk-reward ratio. And right now, the rewards outweigh the risks, well above the 50-day average. This A2 rating is basically saying that we might want some exposure to ANKR. Now, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Chris is not a financial advisor, and advice.io are not offering financial advice, but they are offering you the tools to come up with your own conclusions. As I read this data right now, we have a Sharpe ratio that's saying we might want some exposure to ANKR, and this has been the case pretty much since the 11th of August. We wanted to kind of build a position with ANKR. We obviously see ourselves with an extremely greedy area. We're cautious that experienced traders, those seasoned professionals, will want to take some profits. Otherwise, you're going to see some FOMO activity. As I read this data, it's saying that actually if you've got exposure, you're going to be looking pretty good. The profitability is an A1 rating. So again, with 34,000% in just 387 days, that is very, very significant, and obviously is much better performing asset than things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, even better than things like Harmony One and VeChain right now, even Cardano. Basically, there's very few projects that have performed as well as ANKR. So I know it can be frustrating when it trades sideways. When it pops hard. So really good gains have been made, and obviously it's an A1, the best rating it can be from an ROI perspective. Otherwise, the moving averages are an A2, peak and value demand at B2. Otherwise, no problems, and we are a top tier A-class cryptocurrency according to the artificial intelligence and machine learning at advice.io, and I agree with that. Everything's looking pretty good. So when we come back to the charts and we saw this huge explosion to the upside, we saw profits getting taken and consolidating, we can see that we're ready for that next pop to the upside, being oversold. What actually caused this? And that's where things kind of get a little bit interesting. We can actually take a look at some impulsive waves, right? Taking us from the high point here down into an A wave. So it's not even that's an impulsive. We want a triangle, sorry. So we want to come in here. We have an A wave, we have a B wave, we come down for a C, we come up for a D, we come down for an E, and then we explode to the upside, guys. So if I grab hold of my arrow, you can see the extent to this, right? We literally popped right away to the upside there. Huge triangle kind of formed here. Now, this actually plays out really nicely because each of these should also include an ABC. And again, this works to the upside. So we have basically had an A here. If I actually throw that in, A, B, and then a C. And again, there's a little bit of a mess there. It's not the neatest, but it's definitely an ABC. We obviously come down to the downside. We have an A, B, and a C. And again, we go back to the upside. We have an A, a B, and a C. And again, we come back to the downside. We come into an A, a B, and a C, and then we get that explosion, right? So really quite interesting kind of stuff. Obviously down here as well, an A, and a B, and a C. Okay, so really, it says if I actually draw the C in the right place, there we go, pop that back down there. So this actually played out really, really nicely for ANKR, and basically we were on a call with 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗠𝗘𝗥𝗦 not too long ago. We were talking about triangles and other things that are going on there. And since Matt Dixon's been mentioning triangles, I just cannot stop seeing them everywhere. But basically, we can see this huge push to the upside and the consolidation now. And obviously what we're looking for here is now another push to the upside. So again, looking for that explosion to the upside. Now this will be a part of an impulsive wave, normally is what follows. So basically, if I actually bring this back down, we'd have this as an wave 1, this potentially as a wave 2, now looking for a big push for wave 3, and then a wave 4, and then push up to a wave 5. Okay, so this is usually the kind of thing that follows these kind of patterns, right? So what we're looking for now is to basically complete this, this second wave, whether this is now bottomed out, which it looks like it should have. Obviously, knowing that underlying data from advice.io, everything's looking very, very greedy, and obviously we've got a good sharp ratio, and obviously we have really good moving averages and all that information. We could potentially see a huge push now to the upside for a third impulse wave before we consolidate back down into another fourth wave ahead of that fifth. Okay, and again, all of this kind of stuff on the smaller time scales, guys, is why you can get lost in your trading. Okay, because if we're ever in doubt, we want to zoom right out. Where are we actually, and what are we actually in right now? If we actually take a look at the weekly chart, we're inside this fifth wave, right? Which means that everything that we were actually talking about is actually happening inside potentially a second wave of the fifth wave. And obviously, as we get into that hourly, what are we actually talking about? Well, we're talking about potentially being inside a fourth wave, inside maybe the second wave of our fifth wave, right? And you can get yourself lost very, very easily inside all of this. And obviously, as we talk about now pushing up into this next impulse wave, which would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which actually could potentially form a part of our bigger fifth wave or third wave within our fifth wave. Okay, so ultimately you can get yourselves lost. It's important that we don't get too distracted by where we actually sit, and we just acknowledge what kind of time frame we're actually looking at. This is the hourly chart, but for the most part, as a long-term investor and not as a trader, we want to spend a lot more time really on the weekly chart, making sure that we have good structure as we continue this growth to the upside overall. Obviously, there are going to be waves within waves. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on that journey to the upside within the fifth wave itself. Each of these, again, will be full of 5, 3, 5, 3, and 5. So ultimately, it's important that we acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of things going on, lots of different kind of waves and theories on lots of different kind of levels, be that the weekly, the daily, the 4 hourly, the 8 hourly, the hourly, the 30-minute, the 15-minute, right? But if we're ever in doubt, zoom the way back out, zoom to the weekly, zoom to the monthly, and pay attention to the bigger picture, the bigger structure. For ANKR, everything's looking very good. We also have good kind of prospects on heading towards 94.8 if we want to be really timing the top of the market. Otherwise, a 77 target is pretty good, and I think that's a target that most people will want to see actually come in. With that said, done out of the way, guys, hopefully you have found this video useful and informative. If you have, then hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.